the year 2005, a shadow fell upon the heart of Britain, a darkness that would linger in the collective memory of a nation. The streets, usually bustling with life, seemed to pause under the weight of a horrific event that defied understanding. The news headlines spoke of an unspeakable tragedy, and whispers of fear and disbelief echoed through the communities. It was a crime so brutal, so devoid of humanity, that it shook the very foundations of the society's sense of security. Sally Bowman, a name that would be etched in sorrow and remembrance, became the unwitting symbol of this tragedy. A young woman in the prime of her life, with dreams as vast as the stars, found her life brutally snatched away just steps from the safety of her home. Her story was not just one of a life taken too soon, but also a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and tranquility in the modern world. The nation reeled as details emerged, painting a picture of a life cut short in its most promising phase. Families hugged their loved ones a little tighter, questions of safety and justice hanging heavily in the air. The police, guardians of the public's trust, faced the daunting task of piecing together a puzzle that held the key to restoring a semblance of order and security. As the investigation unfolded, the public's attention was unyielding. The press, the people, and the police shared a singular goal: to find the perpetrator of this heinous act. It was a journey that would test the limits of perseverance and the depths of human empathy. And at its heart lay the memory of Sally, a young woman whose smile and vitality were cruelly extinguished, but whose spirit became a beacon in the search for justice in the wake of one of England's most chilling cases. Sally Bowman's story began on a crisp autumn day, September 11, 1987, in the bustling heart of London. Born into a family rich with love and laughter, she was the youngest of 4 sisters. The Bowman household was a tapestry of familial bonds, woven with moments of joy and the usual sibling squabbles, painting a picture of an idyllic childhood. Sally grew up in the embrace of a large, caring family. Her 3 elder sisters doted on her, their affection and guidance shaping much of her early years. Despite the eventual divorce of her parents, Linda and Paul, the family remained a source of unwavering support for Sally. Her father's presence in her life continued to be a pillar of strength and understanding. As she blossomed into a vibrant teenager, Sally's personality shone like a beacon. Her infectious laughter and warm-hearted nature drew people to her, making her a beloved figure among her peers. But beneath her jovial exterior lay a reservoir of determination and responsibility. Even in her teenage years, Sally exhibited a maturity beyond her age. She took up part-time jobs, keen on carving out her own path and not solely relying on her parents for financial support. Her aspirations soared high. Sally's dream was to grace the world as a model, a vision she nurtured with passion and dedication. She balanced her work with her education, her eyes set firmly on the horizon of her ambitions. Sally's hard work paid off when she secured a place at the prestigious London School of Performing Arts and Technology, Be Right. This institution had been a launchpad for many famous names, including actor Tom Holland and singers Adele and Amy Winehouse. For Sally, it was more than just an educational institute. It was a stepping stone towards realizing her dreams. Sally's journey was a testament to her resilience and hard work. After finishing school in 2004, she dabbled in hairstyling and modeling, gaining experience and exposure in the field. Her breakthrough came in January 2005, when she joined the ALS Model Management in London. This was the moment Sally had been waiting for, the beginning of what promised to be a luminous career in the fashion world. In her journey, Sally never lost sight of what was truly important: her family. Despite her burgeoning career, she remained grounded, regularly spending time with her family, cherishing the moments that bound them together. This chapter of Sally's life was one of dreams taking flight, of a young woman's relentless pursuit of her passions, and the joy she found in the simplest of life's pleasures. It was a chapter that should have had many more pages, filled with achievements, love, and laughter. But fate, as it often does, had a different plan. September 24, 2005. dawned like any other Saturday in the life of Sally Bowman, but it was destined to be etched in history for a tragically different reason. The day began with an air of normalcy, a young woman going about her life, unaware of the cruel twist of fate that awaited her. Sally decided to visit her mother, a routine that reflected the close bond they shared. Their day was filled with the mundane yet precious moments that define a mother-daughter relationship. Conversations, shared meals, and laughter. These moments, unbeknownst to them, would soon become cherished memories, the last of their kind. As evening approached, the tranquility of the day gave way to the vibrant energy of a night out. Sally's older sister, Nicole, called with an invitation to celebrate their best friend's birthday. Sally, with her ever-present zest for life, agreed. She left her mother's house around 6 in the evening, parting with the words, "I love you," a simple phrase laden with profound meaning in hindsight. The destination was Light Bar in the heart of Croydon, a place pulsing with music and the laughter of friends reuniting. CCTV footage from the bar captured the essence of the evening. Sally, in her element, enjoying the company of her sister and friends. The group danced, chatted, and reveled in each other's company, a snapshot of youth and joy. However, as the night wore on, the mood shifted. Around 1 a.m., Sally and Nicole decided to leave the bar. They walked together to Nicole's house, a short journey marked by the easy conversation of sisters. Yet, Sally's stay was brief. She soon left, setting in motion the events that would lead to tragedy. On her way, Sally made a call to her ex-boyfriend, Lewis, with whom she had recently ended a tumultuous relationship. They agreed to meet in central Croydon, a decision that would unknowingly change the course of many lives. The reunion was far from harmonious. An argument ensued, rooted in the unresolved issues of their past relationship. The disagreement lasted until the early hours of the morning. Around 4:15 a.m., the heated conversation reached its end, and Sally stepped out of Lewis's car, just a short distance from her home. This moment, captured by none but the stillness of the night, was the last time Sally was seen alive. The night air, usually filled with the sounds of a city winding down, was soon pierced by an unknown disturbance. It started as an indistinct noise, escalating to a scream that shattered the calm. Neighbors, awakened by the commotion, rushed to their windows, searching for the source of the distress. Yet they saw nothing amiss, just the quiet streets they knew so well. Minutes passed, the silence returning like a veil over the neighborhood. Only the fleeting glimpse of an unknown man walking the street hinted at the horror that had just unfolded. As dawn broke, painting the sky with hues of light, a neighbor stepped outside, only to stumble upon a chilling discovery. Behind a construction container, what initially appeared to be mannequin legs revealed a horrifying truth. The lifeless body of Sally Bowman lay before him. In that moment, the world stopped for the Bowman family and the community. The bright young woman who had left her mother's house with a smile was now a tragic figure in a story that would haunt the nation. The police arrived swiftly, cordoning off the scene, their minds burdened with the gravity of the crime and the solemn duty to bring justice to a life cut so brutally short. The quiet dawn of Croydon was disrupted not just by the discovery of Sally Bowman's body, but by the onset of an investigation that would soon grip the nation. The police, confronted with a scene of brutality and loss, began their meticulous work. The area around Sally's home became a hive of activity, marked by the somber duty of uncovering the truth behind her untimely death. Detectives swarmed the scene, collecting evidence with the precision and care that such a grave situation demanded. The immediate question that loomed large was, who could have committed such a heinous act, and why? Sally, known for her vibrant personality and warmth, seemed an unlikely target for such brutality. As the news of Sally's murder spread, a community was left reeling. Friends, family, and even strangers found themselves united in a shared sense of grief and disbelief. The Bowman family, thrust into an unimaginable nightmare, struggled to comprehend the loss of their youngest member. Sally's mother, who had last seen her daughter leaving with a smile, was now grappling with a reality no parent should ever face. The police, under immense pressure to solve the case, began their investigation by piecing together Sally's last known movements. The CCTV footage from the light bar provided a timeline of her final hours, but it offered no clues about who might have followed her after she left. The footage showed Sally enjoying the evening, unaware of the fate that awaited her. Investigators also focused on Sally's personal relationships, particularly her recent interactions with her ex-boyfriend, Lewis. The argument they had on the night of her murder put him under immediate scrutiny. However, the complexities of their relationship and the emotional turmoil that marked their recent breakup painted a convoluted picture that required careful untangling. As the investigation deepened, the police worked tirelessly, questioning friends, acquaintances, and anyone who might have crossed paths with Sally that night. The community rallied, offering any information they had, no matter how insignificant it seemed. Every lead was followed, every possibility explored, in the hope of finding the missing piece that would solve the puzzle. Forensic teams combed through the crime scene, searching for any trace of the perpetrator. It was a race against time, with the knowledge that every passing hour could mean the difference between catching the killer and letting them slip away. The police knew that the key to unlocking the mystery lay in the evidence they could gather from the scene. In a breakthrough moment, the forensic team discovered a small but potentially crucial piece of evidence, a sample of DNA. It was a glimmer of hope in the darkness, a chance to find the person responsible for such a despicable act. The sample was rushed to the laboratory for analysis, with the expectation that it could lead the police to Sally's killer. This chapter of the investigation was marked by a blend of methodical police work and the raw emotion of a community shaken to its core. The streets of Croydon, usually alive with the hustle and bustle of everyday life, were now under the shadow of a tragic mystery. The quest for justice for Sally Bowman had begun, a journey fraught with challenges but driven by the unwavering determination to find the truth. As the investigation into Sally Bowman's murder progressed, the DNA sample discovered at the crime scene became a focal point of hope. In the sterile confines of a forensic lab, experts worked diligently, analyzing the genetic material that might hold the key to solving the case. This tiny sample, seemingly inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, had the potential to unravel the mystery shrouding Sally's tragic end. Meanwhile, the Bowman family and the community grappled with grief and uncertainty. The vibrant life of a young woman, once full of dreams and aspirations, had been reduced to a case file in a criminal investigation. The streets where Sally once walked freely now whispered her story, a tale that had taken a dark and unexpected turn. The DNA analysis was a meticulous process, each step carried out with precision and care. The forensic team understood the weight of their task. Their findings could either lead the police to the murderer or back to the drawing board. The sense of urgency was palpable. The perpetrator was still at large, a looming threat to public safety. In parallel to the DNA analysis, detectives continued their investigation, leaving no stone unturned. They interviewed potential witnesses, revisited the crime scene, and scrutinized Sally's relationships and interactions in the days leading up to her murder. Every piece of information was vital, each clue a potential breakthrough. As the forensic experts compared the DNA sample to national databases, the anticipation grew. The police hoped for a match, a name that would bring them closer to the killer. However, the complexity of DNA profiling meant that the process was time-consuming, and the wait was agonizing for both the investigators and Sally's loved ones. The community, still reeling from the shock, rallied around the Bowman family. Vigils were held, and tributes poured in, reflecting the profound impact Sally's life and untimely death had on those around her. Her story had touched the hearts of many, transcending the boundaries of her immediate circle. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. The DNA analysis yielded a result, but it was not the straightforward answer the police had hoped for. The sample did not match any profiles in the existing databases. This revelation was a double-edged sword. While it meant that the killer was not already known to the police, It also signified that the investigation had hit a critical roadblock. Undeterred, the detectives refocused their efforts, considering new angles and revisiting old leads. The DNA sample, although not providing an immediate solution, had given them a crucial piece of evidence. It was a unique genetic fingerprint that belonged to Sally's killer, and the police were determined to find its owner. This chapter in the saga of Sally Bowman's murder investigation was a testament to the resilience and perseverance of those seeking justice. The DNA sample, a beacon of hope in the darkness, had opened a new path in the quest to find her killer. The journey was far from over, but the resolve to solve the case had only strengthened. As the autumn leaves began to fall, casting a golden hue over the streets of Croydon, a sense of unease lingered in the air. The murder of Sally Bowman had not only left a family in mourning, but had also cast a shadow of fear across the community. The lack of immediate leads, even with the DNA evidence, meant that the killer was still at large, an unsettling reality for the residents. The police, determined to solve the case, intensified their efforts. They meticulously retraced Sally's last steps, hoping to find some overlooked detail that could provide a breakthrough. The area around the crime scene was canvassed repeatedly, with officers interviewing residents and business owners, searching for anyone who might have seen something on the night of the murder. Amidst this, the focus of the investigation shifted to the personal life of Sally. The detectives delved deeper into her relationships, exploring every connection, every acquaintance. Her recent breakup with Lewis, her ex-boyfriend, made him a person of interest. The tumultuous nature of their relationship and the argument they had on the night of her death raised questions that needed answers. Lewis was brought in for questioning, a routine yet critical part of the investigation. He was the last known person to have seen Sally alive, making his account of their final encounter crucial. The interrogation was intense, as the detectives probed for inconsistencies in his story. Lewis maintained his innocence, insisting that he had parted ways with Sally after their argument, and was unaware of her fate until the police informed him. Despite Lewis's assertions, the investigators were thorough. They checked his alibi, analyzed his phone records, and compared his DNA to the sample found at the crime scene. The pressure to solve the case was immense, and every lead was pursued with vigor. As the investigation continued, the Bowman family struggled with their grief. They grappled with the reality of Sally's absence, her vibrant presence reduced to photographs and memories. The community rallied around them, offering support and solidarity. Candlelight vigils were held, and tributes poured in, a testament to the impact Sally had on those around her. The police, meanwhile, faced the daunting task of sifting through mountains of information. They followed up on numerous tips from the public, each one a potential key to unlocking the mystery. The investigation was a painstaking process, with detectives working around the clock, fueled by a commitment to justice. The breakthrough they desperately sought, however, remained elusive. The DNA evidence had not provided a direct link to the killer, and the lack of eyewitnesses compounded the challenge. The case was a complex puzzle, and the missing pieces were proving difficult to find. In this climate of uncertainty and fear, the residents of Croydon found themselves looking over their shoulders, the sense of security they once took for granted now shaken. The streets where children once played freely were now viewed through a lens of caution, and whispers of the unsolved case echoed in every corner. The journey to find the killer continued, a path fraught with challenges, but driven by the hope that justice would eventually prevail. The investigation into Sally Bowman's tragic demise entered a critical phase as detectives faced the daunting task of hunting a phantom. The unknown killer, whose DNA was a sole but silent witness to the crime, remained a mystery. The police, fueled by a combination of professional duty and a deep-seated desire for justice, delved into the painstaking process of finding a match for the elusive DNA profile. With the DNA database yielding no immediate results, the investigation team expanded their approach. They began to explore the possibility that the killer might be someone living in the vicinity, someone who had managed to blend into the community unnoticed. This theory was bolstered by the realization that the attack had occurred so close to Sally's home, suggesting a certain familiarity with the area. The detectives meticulously examined every aspect of Sally's life, looking for any clue that might lead them to her killer. They revisited interviews, re-examined evidence, and combed through the statements of friends, family, and acquaintances. The community, still reeling from the shock of the murder, cooperated fully, hoping that their collective efforts would bring the perpetrator to justice. As part of their expanded investigation, the police decided to conduct a more localized DNA screening. The aim was to collect voluntary samples from residents in the area, a massive undertaking that reflected the seriousness of the situation. The hope was that, even if the killer didn't come forward, a relative might, providing a vital link through familial DNA. This decision was met with a mix of apprehension and support from the community. While some residents were eager to help and provided their DNA samples willingly, others expressed concerns about privacy and the implications of such a widespread genetic screening. Despite these reservations, the sense of a shared purpose, to find Sally's killer, prevailed, and the screening process began. The police went door to door, explaining the purpose of their visit and asking residents to participate in the screening. It was a task that required sensitivity and patience, as they were dealing with a community still traumatized by the recent events. Many residents complied, spurred by the desire to see justice served for Sally. Meanwhile, the Bowman family continued to navigate their grief, each day a reminder of the bright life that had been so cruelly taken from them. The public's support was a small comfort, but the lack of closure hung over them like a dark cloud. Sally's story had become a symbol of the fragility of life and the need for justice in a seemingly unjust world. As the investigation continued, the police faced the enormity of their task. The DNA screening of the local population was a laborious process, and each sample had to be carefully collected, cataloged, and analyzed. The forensic team worked tirelessly, comparing each new sample to the one found at the crime scene. The weeks turned into months, and the search for Sally's killer continued. The DNA screening yielded no immediate results, leaving the detectives to ponder their next move. The frustration was palpable, but the resolve to solve the case never wavered. The pursuit of the phantom killer, hidden in plain sight, continued with renewed determination. The journey to find justice for Sally was far from over, but the determination to solve the mystery of her death remained unshaken. Months passed since the tragic murder of Sally Bowman, and the once fervent pace of the investigation had settled into a steady, persistent rhythm. The DNA screening of the local community, a Herculean task undertaken by the police, had not yielded the breakthrough everyone had hoped for. The shadow of the unknown assailant still loomed over Croydon, a reminder of the unfinished business of justice. Detectives found themselves at a crossroads. The vast amount of data collected from the DNA screenings was a logistical challenge, with thousands of samples to compare and analyze. Despite the advanced technology and expertise at their disposal, the police faced the stark reality that the killer's DNA might not be among those collected. The frustration within the team was palpable, but they were not deterred. The quest for justice for Sally and her family remained their driving force. The community, once abuzz with the activity of the investigation, had slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy, but with an undercurrent of unease. Residents were more cautious, their sense of safety permanently altered by the events of that fateful night. The memory of Sally, vibrant and full of life, contrasted sharply with the grim task of finding her murderer. Amidst the ongoing investigation, the police continued to follow up on every lead, no matter how small. They revisited old interviews, re-examined evidence, and kept a close eye on the community, aware that the killer might still be hiding in plain sight. The Bowman family, meanwhile, waited for closure, their lives irrevocably changed by the loss of Sally. The case had also begun to draw attention beyond Croydon. Media coverage intensified, with national newspapers and television programs featuring Sally's story, hoping to shed light on the investigation and encourage new leads. This media attention brought additional tips and potential sightings, each meticulously followed up by the police. In this climate of heightened awareness, the investigators revisited the details of the case, analyzing them with fresh eyes. They scrutinized the timeline of events, Sally's interactions on the night of her murder, and the results of the DNA screenings. Every piece of information was crucial, but the elusive nature of the killer's identity continued to frustrate their efforts. The Bowman family's ordeal and the community's anxiety were a constant reminder of the stakes involved. The police knew they had to maintain momentum in the investigation, even as leads appeared to dwindle. The resolve to find Sally's killer was as strong as ever, but the path to that goal was clouded with uncertainty. As the investigation into Sally Bowman's murder trudged forward, weighed down by the burden of unyielding mysteries, an unexpected turn of events breathed new life into the case. The breakthrough came not from the painstaking DNA screenings or the myriad of interviews, but from an incident seemingly unrelated to Sally's tragic story. It was in a local bar, a place far removed from the somber mood of the investigation, where fate intervened. A heated argument between two patrons escalated into a physical altercation, drawing the attention of the local police. The aggressor, a man named Mark Dixie, was apprehended for his involvement in the brawl. This seemingly routine arrest for a minor offense would soon prove to be a pivotal moment in the quest for justice. Dixie, whose temperament had shifted from aggression to a surprising display of panic and distress upon his arrest, raised the suspicions of the arresting officers. His overwrought reaction to what should have been a straightforward detention was out of place. Following standard procedure, the police took Dixie's fingerprints and, crucially, a DNA sample. This routine action, unbeknownst to them, was the key that would unlock the mystery surrounding Sally's murder. 12 days passed, during which the investigation team continued their diligent work, albeit with a sense of growing frustration. However, a call from the forensic lab changed everything. The DNA sample taken from Dixie matched the one found at Sally's crime scene, a revelation that sent shockwaves through the police department. The realization that they had unwittingly captured Sally's killer on an unrelated charge was both a relief and a cause for reflection on the unpredictable nature of police work. Dixie, now a prime suspect in one of the most high-profile murder cases in the region, had been under their noses, caught by a stroke of luck. The investigation team, reinvigorated by this development, delved into Dixie's background. They uncovered a history marked by violence and criminal behavior, painting a picture of a man capable of the atrocity committed against Sally. The pieces of the puzzle were finally coming together, linking Dixie to the heinous act that had taken Sally's life and shattered the peace of a community. With solid evidence in hand, the police were ready to move. They arrested Dixie, this time not for a minor scuffle in a bar, but for the murder of Sally Bowman. The news of the arrest spread rapidly, bringing a complex mix of emotions to the community and the Bowman family. Relief, sorrow, and a sense of justice delayed but not denied permeated the air. The narrative, once mired in uncertainty and frustration, had taken a dramatic turn, bringing the prospect of closure and justice within reach. The end of the long and arduous journey to find Sally's killer appeared to be in sight, a moment that many had awaited with bated breath. The final chapter in the tragic saga of Sally Bowman began with the arrest of Mark Dixie, the man whose DNA had irrefutably placed him at the scene of the crime. The community of Croydon, which had been living under the shadow of fear and uncertainty, breathed a collective sigh of relief. For the Bowman family, this moment marked the end of a harrowing journey filled with grief and the agonizing wait for justice. As Dixie's trial commenced, the grim details of Sally's final moments and the brutality of her murder were laid bare in the courtroom. The evidence against Dixie was overwhelming. The DNA match was incontrovertible, and further investigation into his past revealed a history of violence and criminal behavior, painting a disturbing portrait of a man who had walked among them unnoticed. Throughout the trial, the Bowman family sat with dignity and resilience, enduring the painful revelations and the harrowing details of Sally's untimely death. The public followed the proceedings closely, the case having captured the nation's attention. There was a collective yearning for justice, not just for Sally, but for the sense of safety and innocence that had been lost. Dixie, facing the weight of the evidence against him, showed little remorse. His defense was weak, and the prosecution was relentless, determined to secure a conviction for a crime that had shaken the community to its core. As the trial progressed, the inevitability of Dixie's guilt became apparent. Finally, the jury delivered their verdict: guilty. The courtroom, filled with tension and anticipation, erupted in a subdued sense of vindication as the judge sentenced Mark Dixie to life imprisonment. For the Bowman family, it was a moment of mixed emotions: relief that justice had been served, but grief for the irreplaceable loss of Sally. The conclusion of the trial did not bring Sally back, but it offered a semblance of closure to her loved ones and the community. It was a testament to the tenacity of the investigators and the advancements in forensic science that had brought Dixie to justice. The DNA evidence, once a mere silent witness, had spoken loudly in the court, sealing Dixie's fate. In the aftermath of the trial, the Bowman family and the community of Croydon began the slow process of healing. The case had raised important discussions about public safety, the criminal justice system, and the role of DNA evidence in solving crimes. Sally's story, tragic and heart-wrenching, had left an indelible mark on all who had followed it. The streets of Croydon, once overshadowed by the dark cloud of an unsolved crime, slowly returned to normalcy. But the memory of Sally Bowman, a young woman with dreams and a zest for life, remained. Her legacy continued through her family's advocacy for victims' rights and their efforts to ensure that such tragedies do not befall another family. Sally's story, etched in the annals of Croydon's history, would be remembered not just as a tale of tragedy, but as a powerful narrative of the relentless pursuit of justice against the odds.